So welcome. My name is Bethany and I'm with ICANN Language and Training Center. Today's webinar is called 5 Keys to Becoming a Great Language Learner. Now I am going to put up a screen so that you can see the words that I'm saying as well as hear them. And first of all, I just want to thank you all for joining me today. I hope it will be very useful for me. And I want to start by saying that language is not just something that you learn, okay? We talk about learning a language, but really, language is something that you experience. It's something that you grow in. It's something that you live. So it's a journey that you walk on. And yeah, it's a long journey. Learning a language or becoming fluent in a language takes time. This is unfortunately the truth. So it can be a long journey, and there can be some challenges and exciting things along the way. But you have to keep in mind that when you are studying a language or growing in a language, it does take time. And a lot of people think that you can take an English course or, study some French vocabulary and you'll get it. Sometimes this is a great way to help you grow in a language. But to become really fluent in a language can take years. Okay, so it can be a very long journey. But the great thing about language is the more time you put into it, the more you'll get from it and the further you will grow. So a lot about language is up to the person who is growing in the language. Okay? Today's webinar, we're going to be talking about the 5 keys to being a great language learner. In webinars in the future, we're going to be talking more about practical tips about what you can do to grow in a language and some good practices of how to study and get new vocabulary and improve your listening and different things like that. Today's webinar is about you, okay? You as a language learner. So what does it mean to grow in a language, to learn a language? What do you have to do and how do you have to act and think in order to be growing in a language in a good way? Okay, so in order to be a good language learner or a great language learner, we're going to keep 5 things in mind. Okay? To be a great language learner, you have to have enthusiasm. Okay? Enthusiasm is excitement or energy. Okay? We'll talk more about these points in a little bit. The second thing, you have to have clear goals. You know what you want to accomplish. Third thing, accept that you will make mistakes. And fourth, accept that you will not understand everything, especially at the beginning, but you don't really need to, okay? So accept that and continue on. And the last key is commit to communication. So we're going to go through these step by step and talk about them in a little bit more detail. So the first one is have enthusiasm, okay? Enthusiasm is energy, it's excitement, it's fun, okay? A lot of times when people learn a language, they think it depends on memorizing things or opening up a book and learning some grammar. And these both can be some ways to improve your language, but really having the mind of approaching a language with enthusiasm or excitement is really important to learning a language or growing in a language. So you have to be very positive in your approach to language. Be enthusiastic, be energetic, and always have the mind, the thought, that it's a good thing, it's an exciting journey. Okay, language is not a chore, it's not a duty. Sometimes you do need to learn language for a job or your study or an interview or something. You need to study specific grammar and vocabulary in order to pass a test. But in general, language learning should be fun. It should not be a duty. So be positive, be energetic, and have a good attitude. Okay? We talked about how the journey might be long and it might be challenging, and sometimes it might even seem boring. But have a good attitude, have enthusiastic mindset, and this is going to help you receive language input in a better way and to process the language. It will help you understand new things quicker, and it will help you to continue on in spite of all the obstacles or the challenges. It will help you overcome, and it will make it more fun. Because at the end of the day, we want language to be fun. So believe that it's an exciting journey into another world. Learning a language is not just about words or grammar, but it's about experiencing a new, different world, a new and different culture, because all of these things are related to language. Okay, how do we do that? How do we make language learning fun and continue to have enthusiasm and energy? One of the ways is to really try to keep the lessons fun. So not just to memorize things, but to learn from books, to learn from movies, from songs. Try to go to lessons or have teachers that are interactive and can um, keep the activity going. Another way to do it is to have fun along the way by celebrating how you're doing in language. So, for example, when I started Arabic, one of my goals, one of my levels in Arabic was 250 hours of Arabic study. So to help me, I did something called a paper chain. So in this picture, it's the picture on the right. And it's just links of paper. And every time I would complete 2 hours of language study, I would take one of those pieces of paper off the chain. And so the chain got shorter and shorter and shorter. And at the end, I had a party because there was no more paper chain, there was no more levels or hours in that level, and that helped me keep enthusiasm. Another thing that I have done is to put something in a jar. The picture on the left shows some candy. I did it with some small balls or beads, and to move them from one jar to another after every hour of language so that you can see what you have to complete and what you have done. So, and these were two things that I have done. I'm curious about, for you guys, do you have any ideas on how to keep your enthusiasm and your motivation for language learning? What do you think? You can type your thoughts in the comment below. Great. So point number 2. I'll come back to sharing. Okay, point number 2. Have clear goals. So if you don't know why you are learning a language, or if you want just to learn a little bit of a language, a few words, and see how far you will go, you won't get very far because you really need to have the goal in mind in order to complete the goal. So set the main goal of fluency. So make fluency in the language your goal. This means that you're not just learning a little bit of vocabulary. It means you want to go into the whole language, to dive into the language and learn as much as you can to be fluent. Okay? Being fluent is a big thing. Okay? And yeah, so being fluent is a big thing, and you need to do it with all of your mind, with all of your heart, with all of your thinking and energy and motivation. Um, and one way to help you do this, because fluency is a very big goal, is to set clear, specific, short-term goals to keep you motivated. Okay, so fluency is a big goal, and these small goals are what is going to help you reach the end goal of fluency. All of them are steps towards the main goal of fluency. So if you have some ideas of these goals, you can write them in the chat box as well. While you are writing, I'll give you a few examples. So maybe one of your goals is at the beginning to learn how to introduce yourself to someone. Okay, simple. Maybe one of your goals is to order a meal at a restaurant or to order delivery by phone. Okay, speaking in another language on the phone is always a little bit more tricky than speaking in person, face to face. Maybe your goal is to be able to read a short book in the language you are learning, or to watch a TV series or a movie in that language. Okay, so these are short, clear goals. And as you work towards them, you're working towards the bigger goal of fluency. And as you, just a minute, as you work towards the idea of fluency, you want to be able to do this because to keep your motivation, you need to be able to accomplish goals to help you do that. And to set your goals, just always remember that with any goals, you really want to make them SMART goals. Okay, if you Google SMART goals, you'll find a lot of information, but basically your goals need to be specific, okay? Focus on one thing. They need to be measurable, okay? In hours, in vocabulary words, in something that you can measure. They need to be achievable, okay? Nothing impossible, but really realistic and achievable. They need to be relevant. So relevant for your life and for what you're doing. And also they need to be time bound. So time bound is the idea that you're going to say, okay, I'm going to do this in 6 months, in 1 month, in 3 weeks. Okay. So what are some other ideas for goals that you could have? Okay. Esra is saying read English books or to understand films without translation. Those are great ideas. Great. The third thing about being a great language learner is that you need to accept that you will make mistakes. Okay, this is kind of a hard one, but really, mistakes are necessary for learning a language. They're necessary to grow. You can't grow unless you try new things, and if you try new things, you will make some mistakes. So, yeah, there's nothing you can do to avoid this. You want to experiment, you want to try new things. When you hear a new word, you need to be able to try to use that in your conversations, or try in a different sentence. You hear it in one sentence, try to put it in a different sentence or a different tense. Okay, and as you do this, you're gonna get things wrong. It's a fact of life. You will get things wrong. Um, the best thing about that is when you can get feedback to correct that and then try again, so that you're continually trying new things, maybe getting them wrong, making mistakes, learning how to do it right, and then growing. This is the growth process, okay? And it's not easy because people in general are scared of failing. We have a fear of failing or making mistakes, and people looking at us and saying, oh, they can't do this, okay? But we're really trying to not let the fear of failure stop us. So yeah, if you let fear of failure stop you, then it can prevent you from growing in your language learning. It can prevent you from learning. So don't be scared of making mistakes. Okay? You will make mistakes, and that is okay. Everybody make mistakes when they are learning a new language. Everybody. Okay? You need to believe in yourself. Believe in yourself. If you make a mistake, try to laugh at it. See the funny side of it. Okay. Once when I was first learning Arabic, I mispronounced somebody's name and accidentally called him horse instead of his name. Um, I had to laugh at it. Whoops. You know, he corrected me, and the next time I said it right. So laugh at yourself, take it easy, but believe in yourself as well, that even though you make mistakes, you can try it again and succeed the next time or the next time, okay? Choose to use your language skills even if they are not perfect. If you wait until you are perfect, you will never use your skills. If you wait to speak until you can speak without mistakes, you will never speak. This is the way it is. So I encourage you. I have made so many mistakes in my Arabic learning, even in the other languages I've tried to learn, and it's okay. It can be frustrating, it can be challenging, but this is also why enthusiasm is important, motivation is important, and having your goals is important, so that when you make mistakes, you can try again. Another thing that you need to accept to be a great language learner is that you will not understand everything, especially at the beginning. Okay, especially at the beginning, there will be a lot you do not understand. You will maybe understand, hello, my name is, how are you? But you will not understand a full movie. You will not understand it when somebody speaks more to you. And you don't need to understand everything. Okay? Yeah, you don't need to understand everything, especially in the beginning. So it's okay if you don't understand a word or a phrase or an idiom or some grammar. It's okay. Learn to be in a situation and be okay with the fact that you can't understand everything being said or everything you read. Okay, because this is also key to growing in a language. If you understand everything, then you don't need to be learning anymore, right? So as we're learning, we will not understand everything, but remember that learning a language is a journey that takes time. And after time, eventually, you will understand what you didn't understand before. Okay, so don't stress, it's okay. Don't try to figure everything out at once. Okay, if you hear something, you don't need to know all of the hows and whys and when do we use this, when don't we use this. Okay, receive what you can understand and try to have some learning strategies in place. We'll talk about those in another webinar so that you can grow into the things you don't understand right now. Okay, because eventually you will understand. If you continue in your language learning, you will understand everything if you reach your main goal of fluency. But until you get there, you may not understand too much. Eventually, everything will become clear. Okay, so be okay with that. And I want to say that this is especially true for grammar. I have been teaching English for over 10 years now, and a lot of my students really want grammar. They tell us the grammar rule, teach us the grammar rule, how, give us all the rules for this grammar, okay? I want to encourage you that if you ask a native English speaker about a grammar rule, most native English speakers won't know how to explain it to you. It's the same is true with any language. If I ask a normal, everyday person who speaks Arabic about a certain grammar rule, they probably won't be able to explain it to me. They can tell me how to say it, maybe, but not to explain why and how. So it's because we learn by speaking, we learn by listening. We don't learn by memorizing grammar rules. And we don't need to know every rule in grammar to continue in our language learning. So when you hear a native speaker, try to imitate them. This is a great way to pick up some grammar and improve your grammar understanding and usage. Try to imitate the native speakers or copy them. But don't really say, oh, I need to learn all these grammar rules. This can be important at some steps in your language learning, but not at every step. So yeah. So what do you think? Do you understand 100% of the English or the French or German being spoken around you or that you see in books or movies? What do you think? You can write in the chat box. What do you think? What percentage do you understand? I think a lot of people, when you're trying to grow in your language, a good idea, if you're talking about reading books or movies or something, try to aim to understand at least like 80%. This is a good percent to understand in order to grow. If it's more than 80%, maybe it's too easy for you, the book or the movie. If it's under 80%, then maybe it's a little bit too hard for you and it might be frustrating. So if you're choosing a curriculum or a talk to listen to or a book, try to find something that you understand maybe 80% of. And this is about the best percentage of what will help you grow. Okay, so maybe about 50% some of you are saying, which is great. You're on the journey, right? So continue with that and continue to ask questions and gather some information so that you can continue to grow until you can understand 80, 90, 100%. Good job. The last point, point 5, is commit to communication. Okay, and this is probably the biggest key about being a great language learner. Okay, growing in any language requires a lot of time communicating in that language. Okay, there are people who can learn from just reading or memorizing, but for most people, in order to really grow, you need to communicate, to speak, to listen, to write, to read, to have interaction with people, okay? And it doesn't need to be native speakers. If you communicate with native speakers, this is ideal because then you can hear proper pronunciation, proper grammar, um, the correct usage of vocabulary. But if you don't have native speakers to speak to, speak with anybody who will speak to you in that language. Okay, this being able to speak and communicate and to write is a great thing to do with native speakers and non-native speakers of that language in order to improve. Okay, and this is key. It's key to learning any language and growing in a language. So spend time communicating in the language. Okay, this must be a priority. Commit to it. Okay, and why you want to do this is because then you can take the things that you are learning in class or from books or from different resources, and you can use them in real conversations right away. And this is part of testing them, using them, getting them to stick in your brain. Okay, so this is part of the process, using the things you're learning in real communication with people speaking that language. This is going to help you so much in growing in the language. And interact with as many people as you can, okay? This, again, is the most important key for learning a language, is using it. If you don't use it, you lose it, okay? This is a famous saying. If you don't use it, you lose it. So you want to be always using your language, even if it's just chatting with a friend online or having a quick phone call with somebody. Keep on using it. Now, this can be a little bit intimidating or scary for people who are shy or who don't like to speak, or like we talked about before, the people who are afraid of making mistakes, okay? But this is where you really have to challenge yourself and go out and talk with people, find people to talk to. For me, I am more of a shy person, an introvert, and I would rather read a book than go and talk with somebody. Um, but when I moved to Egypt, this is what really helped me learning Arabic, was walking in the street, talking to the people in the shops, talking to different friends I met in Arabic. And this is really the number one thing that helped me grow in Arabic. And yes, I made mistakes. Yes, some people couldn't understand me. I could not understand some people at the beginning, but it takes process, it takes journey, and eventually you'll come to the point where you will be able to use it more and more and more. So use the language that you have and keep adding to it, and your language will keep growing. So I want to have you right now, either in the chat box or just on a piece of paper or something, think of people in your mind who you know that you can talk to in the language you are learning. Okay, so if you are learning English, who are people that you can talk to in English? So take a minute to write it down. Maybe it's a family member, maybe it's a friend, maybe it's a coworker or your teacher or a fellow student. Maybe it's a shop owner, a taxi driver, maybe someone online on Facebook, on one of the language learning programs. So take a minute and think of those people. Write it down and then put that list somewhere where you can see it so that you are reminded about these are the people that if I want to practice speaking this language, I can call them, I can text them, I can go see them and practice speaking with them. And remember, they do not have to be native speakers. They can be anybody, okay? It's great if their language level is a little bit higher than yours so that they can help you improve your language. But even if you are at the same level, there's a lot of growth that can happen when you're just talking back and forth. So there you have it. Those are 5 keys to being a great language learner. And yeah, we will be doing further webinars on more like practical specific tips on how to grow in a language. But I hope this gave you a good foundation about things to think about and how to have your mind ready to really grow in a language. So I want to ask you a few things and you can answer in the comments or with somebody that you're listening to. What do you think? Which one of these keys is the hardest for you? Okay, which is the hardest and which is the easiest? What do you think? Question number 2 is, are there any keys that you would add? What else would you add to this list about being a great language learner? What else does it take? What do you think? Number 3, how will you use these keys to grow in the language that you're learning? What are the next steps you can take? What are the goals you can do? How can you practice enthusiasm? How can you accept mistakes and accept that you won't understand everything? How can you commit to communication? What are the next steps for you? So let us know in the comments or send us a message. And yeah, I want to thank you so much for this time. For those of you who are with me live, we'll go into a time of questions and answers. But I also want to say if you want more information about ICANN Language and Training Center or our English or Arabic courses, you can always contact us through Facebook at ICANN Suez or by email at info@icansuez.com. And we will be so happy to be with you and answer any questions that you have. Thanks so much. And yeah, hopefully you will join us for our next webinar as well.